Welcome back to A Valiant Effert. I'm Ted.
I'm Nick.
I'm Josh.
And today we're driving a 2016 Jetta GLI.
So I think it's really important to note that this is a manual, and compared to the DSG GTI that we recently reviewed, it feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted, you were saying that the clutch itself is a little springy or touchy?
Yeah, I think it is. And that's just, I think, as a result of what I'm used to driving. I mean, I'm used to driving a Miata and a Honda, and the clutches just have a different feel. This, I feel like, really kind of pops back at you, but I mean, I guess some people would like that more. I mean, it just takes a little bit of getting used to me, but I do think it's easy to figure out, and it feels good. It grabs pretty high, I think. Don't you guys?
I actually think that it grabs really low compared to most cars. I mean, like, you know, you put it in gear and maybe right in the middle, right around the middle.
And I feel like you've got maybe like an inch or so of space before you really enter that zone of friction.
I think that, you know, it's not that it's necessarily springy to me. It's more, I feel like when you push it down, it kind of gets sucked down. And then after you actually engage the clutch on the release, I feel like then it really pops out.
It's got like, it's one of those clutches that has kind of that two-step, it's like grab out.
Yeah, exactly. I think after you grab it, then it really kind of just pushes right out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'd say by modern standards, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels nice, and I think the actual gear lever has a nice kind of easy to, you know when you're in gear, it feels good, it's crisp.
I think it's a little sloppy for, you know, kind of a performance sedan.
Agreed.
But, you know, something that we've been talking about a lot is actually how this car is really unique in the sense that it doesn't have necessarily a class that it competes in, and it really falls more into a hot hatch, but a sedan version.
Yeah.
I think as a group, we've collectively said that we just don't get the desire to drive this car as hard as you would the GTI. And I don't know if it's mental or like, you know the GTI is kind of like sporty, performance oriented, where this is kind of just awkward. It's good enough, but you don't get that urge.
I almost wonder if it's because it isn't as tight.
Yeah.
Might be, yeah. I think that's part of it for me. I feel like I certainly like to accelerate in it, and, you know, take, like we were saying, take those sweeping corners with a bit of speed.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make me want to kind of rip around very much.
No.
We're actually coming up to our test zone here.
Yeah, so we'll do
So we've got a little bit of a nice safe back road to do a little speed run.
Yes, but you know, the thing that I find most awkward about this car is the rev range. And you know, I think part of it is it being the manual compared to the DSG, but you know, back there I feel like you'd really want to go into third gear, but because of how short the gearing is, by going to third gear, once we hit the uphill, you're just back into second gear.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a little bit of a trade-off. You know, you slow down a little bit, stay in second gear, and you're back in the power band versus shifting into third, maybe going a little deeper into the corner.
Right.
And then downshifting again.
Well, I think you were saying that is one of the things that they wanted to solve, or ended up solving with the DSG, is that they changed up the gear ratios and made them a little bit better for...
Yeah, because the DSG is actually a 7-speed, so they're a little shorter. So I think that, you know, you could go into third back there and you'd still kind of be in the early stages of the power band versus here you're really bogging the engine.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I think it's a great engine.
Yeah, it's essentially the same as the GTI, right? Not a ton of difference.
No, there's some minor differences,
right.
But, you know, neither here nor there. And I think that something that we've all, again, collectively said is for a car that, you know, starts out at this stage and can only be improved, I mean, I don't know what else we could really critique.
Yeah.
So one thing I did notice about the brakes when I went and picked this up was that they are a little touchy, just like the GTI, but in the same manner, once you figure out where that brake pedal actually is, it's very easy to modulate them and very easy to use them.
Yeah.
Nice and smoothly and accurately. Like we said, it's not as tight as the GTI, but it still is, like, handling around corners and stuff. It's tight enough that you're inducing a little bit of body roll, but you're still having an enjoyable experience at low speeds.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's not so fast that you can't kind of play around with the power band a lot, you know, and have some fun. It's another example of that slow car fast phenomenon.
Yeah.
And like, what more do you want?
Yeah.
So what more do you want is really the question that we kept coming back to, because what this car offers for daily drivability and usable performance being the key word, is a lot, even over its competition and other performance-oriented vehicles.
And I think that, you know, we've all said that compared to the S4, like, that car can handle a corner at 70 miles an hour, and you're like, okay, keep going, blah, blah, blah. But this car, you're doing, you know, 40 miles an hour around a tight corner, and you're like, oh man, this is like, it's fun, and you don't have to be doing 1,000,000 miles an hour for it to be fun or engaging.
Right.
So I think, you know, aside the performance being this, like, I would say the performance is negligible compared to the GTI, the overall feel, but probably the biggest difference is actually in the daily drivability. And while the interior is, you know, very similar, the seats are just the biggest difference.
Yeah.
I just think that overall it's a little more comfortable, and it's just daily drivability. If you're, you know, anyone who's larger, or maybe you have a 50-mile drive a day, I think this might be the better car.
Yeah.
Like Nick said, if you want something a bit more comfort-oriented compared to the GTI, this really fits the bill. Now, it does lose a bit of that performance edge compared to its hot hatch counterpart, but it's still a very fun and capable vehicle. Being a 2016 definitely has some downsides in the interior, but how much are you really losing? So you said you really like this overall as a daily driver. What was so appealing?
I actually think that aside from the performance, probably the most appealing thing to me was actually the comfort, especially compared to the GTI, which I think is a very fair comparison.
Because the seats they're very similar.
They are. Like, I think
styles.
to the naked eye, they'd probably even look the same.
Yeah.
Until you sit on them. Like, the bottom is actually pretty flat and not as heavily bolstered. And the sides, while still pretty bolstered, I think that they're more of like a touring seat and probably a little wider.
I definitely feel like they're wider. Yeah. The adjustability is great. As far as the other interior features go, I do notice, once again, you have the piano black in here, just like the GTI, but it's not as much, because it does surround the infotainment, but there's a break between the infotainment and the upper fans.
Yep.
Or upper vents, and then it comes over from the vents to the dash, but in the GTI that was all one. And I hate to say it, but I almost like it better.
I think it's fair to note that they're physical buttons.
And that too, the sat nav and infotainment setup, is not the glass screen like you have.
So I think it looks worse, but I mean, I suppose in terms of cleaning, I guess it would be better, but...
Yeah, I think actually one of my least favorite parts related to that is I think that this is, to me, one of those cars where they're trying so hard to make a lesser quality item look like something it's not. Like, I feel like they tried so hard to give the rubber dashboard a leather grain, and just knowing that it's not, kind of bothers me.
Cheapens it a bit.
Yeah, like just make it plastic then.
Well, and I would say, so the interiors are, at first glance, similar.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that looks almost identical, but when you get down to it, besides the seats, which are lovely, as we've said, the little panels in the door here, they look cheaper to me. It doesn't have the ambient lighting strip. I think the red strip is a little chintzy to me anyway.
And they're piano black.
Yep. And right, and it looks like
they don't have that fish scale the GTI does,
which is going to be harder to clean and maintain, and it's going to get damaged easier.
And I think looks cheaper. That's just me, but
I will say the steering wheel basically feels the same because it's basically the identical steering wheel.
Yeah, the airbag cover is the only minor change.
Different. There's a slight button difference in the cancel and the cruise control, but still, it's the same kind of too many buttons setup.
Yeah, just because you put a blank panel doesn't make it better.
Yeah.
I will say I like. Once again, we have the knobs for all of our climate control. We do have the auto climate control system in this, but you still have all the tactile buttons for the important stuff, and you have the knobs for your climate control, your volume, your tuning.
Yeah, the screen, while still very intuitive and actually reactive, I would say it's negligibly slower.
Yes.
And but like it's also a 5-year-old car.
Yeah.
And it's just a previous generation screen.
And it still has CarPlay and Android Auto.
It does.
Yeah.
So,
which is great.
Yeah.
At that
and
point, like
your favorite feature.
Yeah.
Which is
the real USB.
Oh, that it has a real USB. Yes.
Yes. Hey.
It actually has a real USB. It
Finally
doesn't
found
have
one.
a USB-C, and the
Right.
Q5 didn't have one.
Didn't have any.
Didn't have any.
1 year older.
1 year older, and it didn't have any.
Yep.
This one has a real USB, and it has a couple of 12-volt ports.
Yep.
One up front, one in the rear, I think, for passengers. But it has a real USB and not a USB-C, which is I still don't understand why the 2021s are just like, yeah, USB-C, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
like,
one.
I understand that it is really expensive to put in a real USB as a second one. I mean, it's probably an extra like 57 cents. So like, I could understand why they wouldn't want to do that, but
yeah, it cuts into the profit.
it would be nice. It would be, it wouldn't be, a negative.
Back to the hill.
Just keep it in second. And now just.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Woo!
Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
That
a
is-
lot of fun.
And I got some lights on the dash there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, we traction
Traction
control.
control.
Yeah. And I know that a car isn't supposed to track out, but it's kind of like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Well, especially in that because it's such a steep.
Yeah, and it's controlled,
Tight.
and it's kind of like you exit out anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of, to me it feels more engaging. And it's still controlled.
It's a good feel.
It is.
Yeah.
Going back to feel, of course.
Yep.
I will say once again, I love the fact that it's got that red accent stitching.
Mm-hmm.
Same exact thing as the GTI on the seats,
Yeah.
on the steering wheel,
Yeah.
Shifter.
shifter, yes.
Manual handbrake.
Mm-hmm. All good things.
Also,
It does not have the frameless mirror that you've got.
No.
No, well, in the mirror, it's kind of like, it's awkward to grab. It seems like a little high to the roof.
Yes.
Not a,
Yeah.
it's a little
Other
lower.
important thing to note. Sorry, Ted. Halogen lights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nick's
Not
least favorite.
Nick's
Yeah.
least favorite feature.
And halogen lights, they're bigger. Maybe that's why this comes down further.
Maybe. That could be it.
It just kills me. This car gets a USB and Apple CarPlay, no LED lights, and again, it's like an $8. Like, when you're buying 200,000 lights, like I don't know. And it's not even. I don't even want to come off as like pretentious and it needs to have LED lights, but it just feels outdated because like the technology was there, so why wouldn't they do it?
You know what I noticed about this interior as compared to the GTI is that so we talked about the steering wheel, the airbag cover. This panel here, the light panels and stuff, you have that kind of like cool pattern on the plastic It's just like little surfaces that they did something to make it look a bit more premium.
Yeah, and just not like a matte plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that touch. I think that makes a big difference between the two.
Yeah.
Functionally, it's the same, but it just, little visual touches to make it feel more premium.
Yeah.
It's the little stuff.
It is.
So the interior of this car shows its age a bit, but with CarPlay and Android Auto, it'll still be a functional system for years to come. Plus, the Fender sound system is actually pretty solid. It might not be to every audiophile's liking, but we think it's pretty good. Plus, the main selling point of this car at 5 years old is its price, and I think that you'll be really surprised at how cheap you can get one of these. So, brand new back in 2016, these cars were like high 20s, low 30s, and today you can pick up a 2016 or 17 for between 12 and 15 grand with like 30 to 60,000 miles, and no price difference between the manual or the DSG. So whatever whatever you prefer. I mean, this is a lot of car for 14 grand, and it's got Apple CarPlay, and it's like everything we've set up. You're getting all that for such a low price that I kind of want one.
I kind of do too. Like, just to keep miles off the truck. Yeah. Like, not that I need to.
And the nice thing is that it's a reliable enough car. Yeah. It's not like the price is dropped because it's a terrible car, horrible to maintain, any of that. It's just I don't know. And especially this compared to a used GTI, the price difference is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, these are a lot lower. And what's the big difference really?
It's more comfortable.
Yeah, this is more comfortable.
I don't know. I think that it's someone who's so stuck on that a GLI wouldn't be as performance oriented. And okay, fine, maybe it's not, but it's not in the 8/10s, the 9/10s, the 10/10s.
And you've got plenty of space in the trunk. The back seats are fine except for your head because you're quite tall.
Yeah.
So it's maybe not the best for adults.
So as a tall person, a little struggle back there.
If you're driving around with 4 tall adults, you might want the GTI, I guess.
There's enough legroom though, actually. I mean, it's not unreasonable.
When I have loads of legroom, I'm very happy with how I'm seated up here in front of you.
It's certainly reasonable. And the even crazier part is, let's say you pick one up for $13,000 with 50,000 miles. For another $500, because it's a manual, you can tune it, and you're at 300 wheel horsepower.
Yeah, which is more than enough for this car.
Yeah, I mean 300 wheel horsepower, I think would give you almost too much.
Yeah, I don't even know. Good. I don't even know if I would be that tempted to tune it. I mean, it's so fun as
it is. It is.
I think this is more fun to drive than my Honda, and sure, you're certainly gonna pay a bit more, as it gets older than the Honda, but not that much. And this is obviously a way newer car. It's a 10-year newer car.
Yeah.
And so you're getting that added safety. You're getting the added tech, and
it has all the sonars, the blind spot monitoring, that sort of thing.
And you get 34.
Yeah, it beeps when I back up and stuff.
And you get 34 miles to the gallon on the highway. It's even in the manual.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, come on.
I know. It's tough. I don't really know of a better car if you're looking for something like this. I don't know what else.
Which we did say the bracket for this is small.
It is.
Or the class for this is small. You have to be looking for this.
A GTI, an SI.
Right.
Like we said, maybe a WRX, but that's all-wheel drive, and that's all kind of a different animal.
WRXs hold their value way more than they should.
You can't get a 5-year-old WRX, I think, for less than 20. Certainly not with 36,000 miles. If you want an automatic WRX, you get a CVT. And this, you get a DSG. So, you have better options. Mm-hmm. And I'm comfortable right now. I'm enjoying driving this. I know we said this is a little sloppy, this gear lever, but it's satisfying.
Yeah.
It's weighty, It's got a nice chunk to it.
I will say one thing I had to, I think you guys had to get used to as well, is driving a manual turbo and trying to rev match.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there is a little bit of that turbo lag. You almost have to really put the pedal down a little bit more.
Right.
Yeah, just to bring the revs back up.
You almost have to floor it, basically.
Yeah. So I think overall, I mean, I want one.
I want one too.
I mean, I would buy one too. I think that the performance and the daily drivability is there.
The price is so tempting.
Right. It's well within our price range.
Right, for what is essentially a new car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like mileage-wise especially. 36,000 miles. So us three guys here at A Valiant Effert, we have very different tastes and preferences, but we love this car collectively. So, you know what? Go out, just go get one. 14 grand, low miles, it's a heck of a lot of fun. And like we kept asking, what more could you want? Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more DIY videos, car reviews, and an upcoming podcast. Thanks for watching.
Even if we put this one in our back pocket.
Okay, God.
That's interesting that it has front.